Hello and welcome to Show Me the Money podcast that's more, oh my God, than overnight rates. I'm Claire.
And I'm Ellie, and each week we discuss how money shows up in some of our favourite pop culture, from the classic to the nostalgic to the contemporary.
And today we are continuing our Friends mini-series, and we are talking about Chandler Bing, moving on from very smoothly, I would say, from character to character, from Monica to her eventual husband, Chandler. And yeah, he's an interesting one. He's kind of like almost, in the same way as Monica can be a bit of a provider in terms of like her home and her cooking. Chandler is very much like a provider of money to Joey.
Yeah, and that's definitely something that we can get into. And I think just to kind of give a bit of context to him financially, I feel like Chandler's another one of the characters, kind of like Ross, who does seem to have like this stability when it comes to his income. We know he has like a stable corporate-y type job.
No one really knows quite what he does.
No one knows what it is. Like
Transfonster.
Yeah, whatever that may be. But he does seem to have this stability, and he always seems to have money to do things. So as we see in these conversations that we've had where we get episodes where there's a bit of a money divide, Chandler is always on the side who has money. And that kind of ties into what we see throughout the series, which, as you mentioned, is he effectively bankrolls Joey through a lot of the series.
Yeah, he does. And he's very generous, but also he doesn't make a big deal out of it at all.
Yeah.
Like he's kind of just there like silently funding Joey's floundering acting career, or certainly like turbulent acting career. And yeah, it's kind of, we see it play out quite a lot where Joey is like trying to pay Chandler back for something, or there's also the episode when Chandler is moving in with Monica. I think it's season 6, episode 6, where he makes up a game
to
get Joey to take money from him. A game of cups. Because he feels guilty that he's kind of like leaving Joey in the shit, because we've seen in earlier seasons that Joey actually does not make a success of moving out and living on his own. And I always thought, it was in my like headcanon, that Joey moved out into the flashy apartment because he and Chandler had fallen out about Kathy, but I think that happens later on. He's kind of sees himself, I think, as a bit of like an older brother figure to Joey, for sure.
Yeah.
Even though like in the earlier seasons, they're much more like in cahoots with one another, always like getting up to antics. But I think Chandler, like, obviously just does have the financial stability that means that, you know, Joey is often out of work. And we'll talk about Joey's kind of spurious work life in his episode. But, you know, he doesn't have a steady income, which must mean that, like, it's probably Chandler's name on all of the bills. It's probably like he's the one who's kind of paying rent, even if Joey can't make it.
I think one of the things with this that I find quite endearing, although I'm sure a lot of people will disagree, is a lot of the takes that I've read about this are very much on the kind of like warning side of it, like the, you know, don't lend money to your friends that you're not prepared to lose, etc., etc. Like Chandler's a cautionary tale in how much you can end up spending on your friends and not getting it back. But it really doesn't feel like that is a dynamic in this situation. And as we go through the series, we do see like Joey's attempts to like repay it and his offers to repay it. And ultimately, you know, when we get to Joey's episode, we'll talk about his kind of financial situation shifting. But I actually think that in this scenario, it's kind of a testament to the strength of their friendship. Like Chandler knows that he's probably not going to see a lot of this money, and he doesn't mind. Like you said in the episode with the cups, you know, he's trying to help him, and Joey's actually the one that doesn't really want to take the money because of his pride. He wants to stand on his own 2 feet, but Chandler really wants to help him out.
And I think that's maybe like a sign of Joey growing up slightly as well, because in the earlier seasons he's got like no qualms about taking money from Chandler. But I also think like we see, I suppose, my view on it is kind of that it's Chandler's money and he's allowed to do whatever he wants with it, right? So we see later in the episodes around his and Monica's wedding, because Monica's parents have spent all of Monica's wedding fund on a beach house because they didn't think that she was ever going to get married. Terrible. But Chandler is like, well, I've got savings, and he's got like significant savings. So helping Joey out hasn't like stopped him from being able to save and like look after his own financial well-being. And I think this is where, for me personally, like I draw the line, because I know that I'm really susceptible to falling foul of the like give it away even if you don't have enough yourself. But I think for me, like the line really is like, is this to like the detriment of my own financial well-being really, or is it just like actual disposable income that I should be allowed to spend on like helping my friend out?
Yeah, and do you not think as well, maybe there's this weird thing that's happened in terms of like discourse where any disposable income we have should be like saved and invested for the future. And actually, of course, there's like one eye on the future and making sensible decisions. But I wonder again whether we've got a bit too like self-centered in the way that we approach finances.
It's this individualism that's kind of like just staining all elements of our lives, isn't it? It's kind of like creeping into everything from politics to personal finance. And I think that, you know, I would just defend Chandler's right to spend money on his silly friend. Like, I just think you're allowed to do that if that's what you want to do. I suppose one of the things that it is so sustained over such a long period of time. I think a lot of people maybe have the view that, like, in order to offer your help to someone, especially if it's financial, they kind of have to show that they're maybe trying to help themselves a bit. And I do kind of subscribe to that a bit as well. Like, and Joey is always going for acting jobs. Like, it's not, you know, he is like doing that, but he's not doing anything else, really.
No, that is true. But yeah, I mean, I guess ultimately if Chandler has faith that Joey is going to actually make it at some point in his career, then maybe he feels as though, you know, ultimately, like, it will be worth all of the supporting him and cheering him on. And not even in just a financial sense. It might not be that he's expecting ever to get that money back, but just that he wants him to succeed. Yeah,
absolutely. And like, I don't think anyone has any real like qualms about people's parents funding their creative endeavors ad infinitum. Like, you might sort of roll your eyes about it, but no one's like writing a think piece on it. And this show is all about found family. And like, we'll talk about it more in Joey's episode because it is really interesting. But he comes from like quite a like poor working class background where he's one of 8, I think. He has 7 sisters. So, you know, there's that element of like, these people are his family, and that is kind of what you do for family. But yeah, Chandler is an interesting creature in that he is so immature sometimes in terms of like, he's very emotionally immature. He's quite like, he doesn't process his feelings very well. He like is a bit of a shit to women, actually. Sometimes he doesn't treat Janice very well. I know she's like a comic relief character, but you know, he tells her that he's moving to Yemen instead of breaking up with her. And he like, it's only really his relationship with Monica that makes him grow up in that sense. But when it comes to like the financial side of things, he's very sorted. But I actually think that maybe that's not that unusual with young men.
No, and exactly. I mean, I think part of it also may be that he's working in like very kind of boring corporate environments. And so maybe actually like the fact that he has to do that in his day-to-day life means that when he's with his friends or when he's outside of work, that he is kind of embracing the kind of silliness and like the more immature side of himself.
Yeah, I mean, I love the scenes at Chandler's office. I always think they're really funny. Because there are a few things, aren't there? There's like the thing where his colleague is trying to set him up with another man.
Yeah.
And what do they say? That he's got a quality, like a sort of gay quality about him. But yeah, he's a funny sort of mix of things.
Yeah, and actually, I think, through most of the series, from a kind of career perspective and a financial perspective, he's the more stable one. And we see that. But then actually, towards the end, we see this career change, which I think is quite a big turning point for him as a character that has always been quite stable financially.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, there's, I guess, a lot of factors that facilitate being able to make a big career change. And actually, one of the big ones in this situation is that Monica is probably able to financially support both of them because she's now very stable in her head chef job. And it kind of gives him that platform maybe to then say, actually, I don't want to do this. I want a more creative job. And he wants to go and be a junior advertising copywriter.
And they're still paying like $200 a month
Well,
for
yeah,
rent.
that's true. Yeah.
So I think like if there were ever a situation in which you could do that, then
this is it.
This is it. But we do see some really interesting things with him. Like he's kind of plunged into this like junior world where he's much older than the rest of his colleagues. And yeah, he kind of is, I think it's an unpaid internship that he does initially. But the reason why he quits his corporate job in true like friend style is that he falls asleep during a meeting and then somehow volunteers for his job to move to Tulsa. It's in one of the southern states.
It's one of those places that I've
it's
heard
Oklahoma,
of.
I think. Tulsa, Oklahoma. That sounds right to me. No, I think that is where it is. But obviously they're in New York, so he's working away from Monica.
Yeah.
And then we have the great episode at Christmas where it's just him and Wendy in the office, and she's like, sort of, I mean, imagine the like genders reversed in that scenario. Yeah. But yeah, like also iconic cameo there from Selma Blair. But so he like that's kind of what gives him like the courage to quit. Is that he's been put in this horrible situation. He's had to be away from like his family essentially at Christmas, and he decides that he's not going to go back into a corporate job. And I suppose there's been quite a lot of these like big quit narratives happening in the last few years.
Yeah, I think especially since the pandemic, it seems to have been like a real thing about kind of quitting and completely career changing. And, I did it myself. Like I quit my kind of very classic traditional career, although I did it a lot younger. I did it, I guess, at a point where it wasn't like a trend, but also I didn't have any responsibilities. So it was a safe time to do it really and to try and do something different. But I think, at any stage it's challenging, but I do think that there's an element of like, as you get older, it probably does become harder to do. Because I had nothing to lose really. Obviously like the stable income and the income trajectory that I was on, I gave up, but I was able to kind of move sideways to a position where, to start with at least, I was earning a similar amount to what I had been earning in corporate. And then I was also fortunate to have a situation where I didn't need to make a consistent amount of money because my then partner, now husband, like could cover of our basic bills to allow me to then like build that up. And I think as you get older and you have like more responsibilities, that only becomes harder. But for some reason, a lot of people, I guess, wait to make the change. And maybe it's because it's scary. I don't know.
Yeah, I think a lot of people like put it off for sure. I mean, It says here that 4 million Brits have changed career since the pandemic.
Wow, yeah.
That's CIPD research. But then also it says that the average age for major career change is 39, which is apparently driven by like mid-career stagnation and financial stability. And I think so Chandler actually, I actually think they're only 35 when this ends. So he is still like early 30s, which I would consider to be young now at my grand old age of 36. But I think
I mean, it is quite
he's got
young.
a lot of career left.
Exactly. Like he's only been working for like just over 10 years and he's got way longer to keep working. So
exactly. And I think there is this kind of almost this narrative that if you've left it until after 30, it's too late. But I mean,
most people
millennials, we're going to be working until we drop dead. So, you might as well, especially if you're really unhappy. The big like elephant in the room with us sat here talking about this in 2026 is, a lot of these corporate jobs, are they going to exist in 2, 3, 5 years? Because we're already seeing this great AI replacement. We've seen Jack, what's his face, Twitter, Jack, his new company, he's cut 40%.
Dorsey. What's his name?
Jack Dorsey. He's cut 40% of his personnel and replaced them with AI already.
Yeah.
And so we are going to see a really big shift. And I think people are going to be forced to change career.
And do you know what I'm actually quite like excited by? Is the fact that I think there's going to be a shift in a direction which we've not seen happen before, because I think people are going to have to shift from white collar to more blue collar jobs and more manual jobs and jobs that can't be replaced as easily. And I actually think it's like about time, because I think that particularly in this country, there's a weird like hierarchy of jobs where a lot of the jobs that are like really hard graft don't get the kind of respect that they deserve. And the pay, exactly. And hopefully that's going to start to shift. And, even just like the obvious ones being like trades, like building, plumbing, electricians. Like, I'm not saying they're not well paid, because a lot of them are, but like, I don't think people, especially like, middle classes growing up in like the 90s and noughties, we were not kind of sold those jobs as good careers.
Yeah.
And actually, I think it's going to go the complete opposite way, where those are going to be the kind of careers that people are encouraging their children to go into, because they are always needed. They are like very specialist, like
it's real
hard work,
real skill. I am thinking of going on like a 1-day course to go and learn some like basic DIY stuff, and I'm like find that intimidating enough. Like
exactly same. Like I don't know how to use a drill. But like AI can't do that.
There's like the trade side of things, but there's also things like beauty therapy, massage therapy, things that like really, I don't want a robot to do my nails. Do you know what I mean? So I think,
like really manual things.
Yeah, things that like
hairdressing.
I also do you think that some of those jobs, like, I suppose human beings have been staring at screens for a long time now, and even more so since like the advent of social media. And do you think that maybe like going back to doing things more with like our bodies and using our like critical thinking and like judgment of like, should I cut this wire or this wire?
Yes.
Sorry, electricians, I don't know what I'm talking about, but like, do you know what I mean? Those like more tangible things that like bring us back into like ourselves a bit, rather than sort of just like staring at a screen, or doing like bringing back the meaning as well. Because I think like if you cut someone's hair, or you do their nails, or you like build a house or whatever, you've been working and you look and you're like, oh yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah, I've achieved something like tangible.
Yeah, for so many like corporate jobs, it's just like, I think the meaning has disappeared from it. And like I know,
another document.
Yeah, exactly.
Another email.
100%. But I just, I'll be really interested. I mean, I am terrified about kind of the advent of AI. But it's going to be like definitely fewer transponsters, more massage therapists. So Phoebe would be Quinton.
Yeah. I know. I'm kind of, I wouldn't say I'm scared. I'm more like curious about it. Like, you know, we work in an industry which is likely to get like heavily affected by all of this as well. And in a way, I'm kind of open to just, you know, let it happen.
You're going to make an AI clone like Kate Price.
Yeah, literally. And then it'll just force us to have to go and do something else. And do you know what? I actually think I would probably get like a lot of satisfaction from a job like being a, I don't know, dog groomer or something.
Bookseller for me.
That's
my fantasy job. Yeah, absolutely. I think, yeah, you know, I think people are going to be forced into this. I don't know if it's going to all go as like smoothly as Chandler. Obviously, there's like awkward moments and he's like embarrassed and, you know, of doing things in front of his younger colleagues. But where do we leave Chandler at the end, career-wise? I think maybe it's just one of those storylines that peters out a bit. I suppose we talked earlier about him being like quite a sort of like vivacious character in a boring corporate job, and that maybe actually this new, more creative role in advertising is like he's maybe better suited for it. And he's just lucky that he's got like Monica there facilitating and paying the bills on his behalf.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the stats that we pulled as well shows that, you know, it said 77% of career changers report earning the same or more within 2 years of switching career. And so I do think that's worth remembering as well. Like, yes, we see him at the very advent of this new journey where he's an intern, he's not being paid, and then he's probably going to go on to low wages. But actually, you know, you can transform that kind of earning trajectory quite quickly in a lot of careers. And it may well be that within a few years, we see him earning a significant amount more.
Yeah, I mean, like I've seen it. My husband like had worked his way up in hospitality to like management positions, and we always assumed that if he was going to be able to move into something that was more like 9 to 5, you know, like more friendly hours, less of the like kind of chaos or whatever of hospitality, that he would have to take like a big step back in terms of salary. And we were like biding our time for when we could afford that, when actually just an opportunity came up for him to move like sideways into a different operational role. And then he was able to like really quickly move up within that new like silo. So I think it's about being strategic with it, but it's also, and like biding your time, waiting for the right time, but also, like it isn't like a death sentence to your income for sure.
Absolutely not. And so hopefully that gives anybody that's thinking about kind of career changing a little bit of inspiration.
Or worried about the AI revolution. It's all going to be all right, folks.
Absolutely. But that is all we have got time for on Chandler. So thank you so much for listening. And please do follow, leave a review, send us a message, drop into our DMs. We hope you're enjoying our mini-series on Friends as much as we are enjoying it too. We will be back next week with our next character. But in the meantime, then stay tuned to our Substack. It drops every Sunday. And we'll be diving into a lot more of these topics in more detail. So until next week,
bye.
Bye.